Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon right here on Lunchtime News. We have a comprehensive bulletin lined up this afternoon. My name is Jackie Wambiru. Our sign language interpreter is Susan Thuku. Now, to kick us off, we cross over to the corridors of justice, where Chief Justice Martha Koome has reassured the country of the judiciary's independence, living up to the ideals of decision autonomy as protected by the Constitution. Speaking in a meeting with heads of mission and development partners, Koome called on the partners to continue supporting independent institutions so that they can effectively discharge their constitutional mandate.
Chief Justice Martha Koome has stood her ground. She will not be cowed into discussing the merits.
One thing we will not open ourselves to is our decision-making independence. We will never discuss the merit of a case. That will be determined by the judge based on the evidence, based on the law, and based on their own understanding.
This even as she pointed out the need to weed out corruption in all sectors.
They say it takes two to tango. And therefore we are asking Kenyans, let's have a very candid conversation. So we are ready as a judiciary to open ourselves for this introspection and to see who is failing in their duty.
Koome further called on the heads of mission and development partners to support and protect democracy and independent institutions.
Who called me to encourage me during this time of attacks? And some of you told me, if for any assurance, Kenya is not alone. Democracy all over the world is under attack. But this reminds me, this is why we should be more vigilant and more defensive of the independence of the judiciary here in Kenya.
This comes as the judiciary pursues the goal of digital inclusion, seeking to onboard the e-filing system in all courts in the country by March this year.
Around the country to ensure that self-represented litigants can access e-filing and virtual courts, as we are looking forward to going nationwide by the 11th of March.
And we had a total of 29 courts. This will support $12 million support. And if you have traveled across the country, some of the very imposing structures that we have are testaments to that particular support.
Development and implementation of the judiciary private-public partnership framework. We want to expand courts. We want to grow our infrastructure portfolio and capital assets.
The Chief Justice also highlighted efforts by the judiciary geared towards eradicating gender-based violence and the rising cases of femicide in the country.
And we are responding to this alarming situation by rolling out the trauma-informed SGBV and children's courts across the country. Indeed, we must take firm measures as a country to head the current threat of femicide that has engulfed our nation.
The judiciary is set to launch an annual National Justice System dialogue that will bring together all stakeholders in the justice chain. Serafina Robi for Lunchtime News.
And now we cross over to Parliament buildings, where the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning in the National Assembly is currently holding public hearings on the housing levy and public hearings on the Affordable Housing Bill 2023. Now, the committee is engaging stakeholders. Currently, it's the ICPK, led by their chair, Philip Kai, that are making their presentation. Let's listen in.
The building ecosystem. I hope I've communicated.
Now we understand.
This English came from somewhere.
Yes. So let me see if I got it right, and then the gentleman next to will clarify. So we say that as government we have 89 billion shillings. That guarantees that the private sector, if you build these houses that meet this criteria, once you finish, we'll offtake them. And then they can go to build something else. And then once the government offtakes them, then they can give them to the civil servants and to all those people that want them. And now so the government is not in the business of supervising the constructions and of doing the constructions. So the private sector gets the one in the business of constructing houses, of taking them to government, and because now the customers of these houses are Kenyans and they know the government already has houses, now government sells them to Kenya. Is that what you mean? Okay, now you're on the same page. That took a minute.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, esteemed stakeholders. I think it's just to also maybe then give practical examples because this is not something that has already been done. So as we speak, we already have a REIT that is already in existence. That is the ACON development REIT. We have largely three kinds of REITs. We have development REIT, that is for new buildings. So if you want to raise money to construct new affordable housing units, you can do a development REIT. And then we have an income REIT. You talked about national housing. They already have maybe some assets that are already there. That too can be converted into a REIT. And then we also have an Islamic REIT, even for financial inclusion. So under the D-REIT and I-REIT, we have the ACON, affordable student accommodation. So most of the universities are actually being funded by a REIT. So it is already there in most of the universities. So it is that similar structure that we want to bring to market. And then also my colleague here, what he didn't also disclose, he's also the CEO of Liaison. So they have also done some Asokuk for military houses. So it is something that is already being proven, and we believe that this structure will be able to do financing. In a nutshell, the capital markets exist so that we can be able to mobilize long-term financing for development. So instead of penalizing all Kenyans, in the spirit of our motto, Harambe.
Well, those live updates right there coming on your screen are from Parliament buildings where the discussion is revolving the housing levy. We shall be keeping you updated. For now, we move on. It was double tragedy at the burial ceremony of a slain National Police reservist after bandits stormed the funeral, killing one person during the melee. The burial of the late police reservist, who was a victim of a bandit attack, came to a halt as mourners scampered to safety during the attack in Morijo area, Wambiru County. Residents are expressing shock following the daring attack as area leaders called on security forces to stop the senseless killing.
The burial ceremony of the police reservists turned into a battleground as suspected bandits stormed the funeral, opening fire. The attack would result in the death of one of the mourners at the funeral, bringing to 2 the total number of persons killed by suspected bandits in less than 3 weeks.
This morning we were trying to call the security personnel because there was an issue this morning of another killing. A second person is dying today when we are burying another one.
Residents were left in shock as to what could have triggered yet another attack minutes to the burial of a victim of a bandit attack. Area leaders led by former Principal Secretary Richard Lesiampe called on the government to intervene and end the incessant killings, calling for the lives of the National Police Reservists to be insured.
Kutoka leo mimi nitaanza vuguvugu la kusema kwamba wale wote ambao wameuawa katika Samburu County ambao wamepoteza maisha yao na serikali haijaokoa, nitayapeleka, nitafuta mawakili ili boko tini.
Tilio Marco for Lunchtime News.
Over 155 households in Baruti, Nakuru County have petitioned the government to consider compensating them for losses incurred after their houses and property were submerged by the swelling waters of Lake Nakuru in 2020. Through their spokesperson, David Kahoro, the residents claim that in May 2020 the water levels in the lake rose to unprecedented levels as a result of heavy downpour. According to the victims, the situation led the siltation forcing the water to spill over, submerging their homes. The victims, who claim to be living as quarters at Baruti Trading Center, noted that they lost approximately over 2,000 acres of land that include agricultural fields, grazing areas, at least 2 schools, health facilities and a trading center.
Tuko mahali ambapo ni kwa mashamba yetu, mahali ambapo maji yapo, samaki wapo ndani. Kwa sababu ile isije ikaleta madhara zaidi. Si basi waangalie vile wanaweza kutu compensate, wafanye compensation, watuondoe hapa, wafanye mambo inaitwa conservation ya area hii. Tumepeleka County Assembly ya Nakuru. Tumeipeana pale. Baada ya kupeana petition yetu, hatujapata majibu. Tunauliza kwa nini hatujajibiwa?
Collins Ogongo, who was among the top students during the 2023 national examinations in Nanyuki, Laikipia County, is yet to join Form 1. The team is from a humble background and is unable to raise school fees to join secondary school despite scoring 358 marks to become the second best student at Nanyuki DEB Primary School. His family is now appealing to well-wishers to sponsor him to join Arumoro High School for his secondary education.
After the jubilation of scoring over 350 marks to secure a slot at Narumoro High School, Collins Ogongo's joy appeared to be fast fading after failing to join Form 1 nearly 2 weeks after his peers began their studies. Reason? Lack of school fees. His mother, Evelyn Akinyi, says the light in her son's eyes appear to dim with each passing day as hopes for securing funds dwindle.
Napata 100 kwa siku ile iweze kunisaidia na watoto kivile. Kwa mimi mpima na check wetu watu huko kwa barabara. Na ile barabara nafanyia kazi, kanjo wanasumbuana, wanatakanga tukuje jioni. Sasa niko na shida zingine, sasa pengine pesa inakuwa kishida kidogo. Sasa takulipa ndivyo inakuwa shida kwa watoto, sengine tunafungiwa hivyo, sababu pesa inashinda wakati wa mwezi umeisha.
According to his mother, she applied for several scholarships with little success. The single mother of 2 has pegged hopes on well-wishers as her daily earnings are barely enough for food and rent.
Momba sana mtoto wangu asikae nyumbani. Wengine wameenda na sikupenda mtoto akae nyumbani, nataka pia yapsome apate masomo mazuri ndio siku moja akuje nitoe kwa shida niko nayo.
This comes even as the Deputy County Commissioner Patrick Muli issued bursaries for 76 bright but needy students from the county who have benefited from the national government's Elimu scholarship program. Among them were 35 boys and 41 girls who scored 280 marks and above. Muli advised bright and needy students still stuck at home due to lack of school fees to initiate dialogue with their school principals to be allowed to join schools as they seek alternative bursaries.
Kuna baadhi ya bursaries ambao ziko kwa wingi sana. Kuna bursaries kwa upande ya CDF, kuna bursaries upande wa county government, na kuna wafadhili wengine ambao wanafadhili wanafunzi. So wazazi ni lazima wajitoe waende watafute msaada wote wanaweza patikana kwa wanafunzi.
Beatrice Gatonyangetich, Lunchtime News.
Kenya Private Security Workers Union has challenged all private security firms to comply and implement the government set minimum wage for private security guards. The union secretary, Dr. Isaac Andabor, urged all stakeholders to engage with the government to ensure the reforms are met to improve the guards' welfare and motivate them. This comes a day after the Private Security Regulatory Authority issued a memo demanding immediate compliance by all private security firms on a minimum wage failure, to which their companies risk losing their operating licenses.
We, as the workers of the Republic of Kenya in private security industry, we want to appreciate the government move and the guidelines as far as the increment of the workers' wages is concerned. All of us, we have no option but to welcome the idea and appreciate the government's move. Number 2, we have all along been fighting for the reforms in the private security, and we have been in the forefront advocating for reforms agenda. Therefore, we want to employ to every person, employers, the contractors, the Ministry of Labor and the PISRA, the regulator, to come together and have a serious discussion on which document are we going to use, which will accommodate the views of every player in the industry as we move forward toward those reform agenda. The government has spoken. We have no otherwise but to accept that which the government has offered to us. So I want to appeal to the employers. Avoid politicking around this issue of wages from the Ministry of Labor and maybe the regulator. Let us first begin complying, and where you find there is a challenge or a problem, we are open to discussion. I also want to say I have invited the main players in this industry so that I can also listen to them as a worker, and we see if there is anything we can do for the purpose of moving forward.
And the Cabinet Secretary for Public Service Performance and Delivery Management, Moses Kuria, has warned public universities over the ongoing financial crisis that has seen staff go for months without pay. The CES warned it would not be business as usual as the higher learning continued to struggle with what he termed as financial mismanagement. This emerged when he met over 1,000 new board members of 107 government corporations in Lake Naivasha Resort for a 3-day induction workshop. Now, CS Courier at the same time said the government would not hesitate to privatize non-performing state corporations.
I'm also asking public universities, which are also state corporations. The government is doing its part, the president is doing his part, the minister is doing his part. Now it's up to you. There is no excuse. There is no excuse for not having prudent financial management.
Other news, the Law Society of Kenya is warning Kenyans against falling prey to crooks masquerading as lawyers in parts of the country. This follows the arrest of a woman accused of illegally rendering legal services to residents of Gatundu, Kiambu County.
In response to an outcry from a section of Kenyans claiming to have been swindled millions of shillings, the Law Society of Kenya and Directorate of Criminal Investigation Officers raided the offices of a woman operating from Gatundu, Kiambu County. Incidentally, the woman was found in an office bearing the name of a registered advocate whom the LSK officials say will face disciplinary action. According to Steve Mbugwa, a representative of LSK Nairobi branch, the suspect was found with hundreds of land sale agreements and other transaction documents whose owners, he said, risk losing their property.
Ile makosa kubwa walifanya zaidi ni wale watu ambao walihudumia kifikiri ni clients tu, walikuwa pia ni wakili wanafuta services za wakili mwenzao. Anaitwa Teresia Wairimu Minja. Amelagai watu wengi sana. Hata leo tukienda kumshika, tulipata ofisi yake imejaa watu wengi sana ambao walikuwa wanahudumiwa wakifikiria yeye ni wakili.
Mbugwa, accompanied by the Kiambu LSK branch chairman Daniel Kichau, said this was the 4th time they have found persons running illegal advocates' office in Gatundu town. Among them, a retired female assistant chief.
We will not relent, na sisi tunasimama kidete kuonyeshana wakili ni nani na kuweza kukinga na kuweza kupambana na hawa ambao wanalaghai wa Kenya. Hiyo ni jukumu yetu ambayo ni kama wanasheria. Kwa ofisi zetu zote ziko na mambo ambayo unaweza kutazama kuwa yule na deal naye ni wakili. Lakini hawa ambao ni walaghai siku zao zimekwisha, na wakati huu ni waondokee, tuendelee kuwakamata.
For Lunchtime News, I'm Joseph Wahungu.
Moving on, the government has been urged to sensitize the public on the housing tax bill before it becomes a law. This comes as it emerged that majority of Kenyans who turned up for the affordable housing public participation in Kilifi County expressed ignorance about the bill. According to Affordable Housing Committee Chairperson Johanna Ngeno, this has posed a challenge in the process of seeking public opinion. The committee is still in the coastal region to conduct public participation exercise on the proposed housing levy.
People who are asking, why are you still continuing with the affordable housing bill? This is a different bill. This is a different law. The courts were dealing with the finance bill or finance act, which was passed in parliament and it was ascended to by the president. So it has nothing to do with this bill. Our bill we will continue listening to the views of the people based on the advert which was issued a few weeks ago.
Kuna vile unaweza nunua nyumba na bado kuna ile house rent ya kila mwezi. Wakiweza kwenda kupunguza mambo yatakuwa angalau afadhali.
Ambao wangependa hizi nyumba then hao ndio wakati ushuru, hao ndio waangaziwe kwa kina. Lakini mtu ambaye anaishi kwake nyumbani, then mtu kama huyu sioni itakuwa ni haki kwa yeye kukata ushuru.
Machakos County Government has implemented strategies to enhance its revenue collection. Among the strategies is the adoption of a cashless payment system, capacity building and employment of adequate staff to actualize the vision. The Deputy Governor Francis Mwangangi, speaking at the induction ceremony of county invoice officers at Machakos Social Hall, said they will be deployed at ward levels across the county to provide timely invoicing of county services and coordinate with revenue officers in enhancing revenue collection. He called on the businesses within the county to pay for licenses to ease delivery of services in the county.
Kuna wafanyabiashara wengi, karibu almost half of the businesses being transacted hapa Machakos County zinatoka nje. Nairobi, kwingine kule kokote katika taifa letu wanakuja huku. Na wengine wanakuja usiku wa walipi. Sasa tunasema ya kwamba tumekuwa na manpower ya kutosha. Kuna chief officers wetu, kuna waziri wetu wa trade. Sasa hiyo team sasa ni kitu kimoja. Kuhakikisha ya kwamba sisa amepewa ile yake. Kaunti ya Machakos ilipo ile inapaswa kulipwa, ndio na sisi tuone ya kwamba gavana wetu na serikali yetu ya kaunti ya Machakos imepeana zile services kwa mwananchi inapaswa kufanya.
Now, still on the corridors of justice, 2 suspects have been charged with the murder of Meru blogger Daniel Muthiani alias Sniper at the Environment and Land Court will on the 18th of April 2024 decide the ownership of the vast land and its lands claimed by both families of late politician Gershon Kirima and the late Italian businessman Domenico De Masi. Details of these in the Scales of Justice segment.
A mental assessment test found Vincent Murithi Kirimi alias Supu and Kenneth Murangiri Gwantai alias Talifit to stand trial in the murder of Meru blogger Daniel Muthiani alias Sniper.
The county, jointly with others known before, court mandated Daniel Muthiani Bernard alias Sniper.
And when they appeared before Lady Justice Dora Chepkoni at Kiambu High Court, they pleaded not guilty. She, however, allowed Vincent to undergo a liver operation at Mama Lucy Hospital on Tuesday before being remanded in industrial area.
The matter mentioned on 29th of February for brief highlights and fixing of a ruling date.
4 other suspects were last week released for lack of evidence. Meanwhile, the family of the late Italian businessman Domenico De Masi has filed a new suit, disputing claims that he sold the land to the late politician Gershon Kirima.
Even as we're doing the applications, within the suit we have to keep track, so the pleadings must freeze. So that in the event, whatever happens to the applications, we shall be able to move with speed in relation to the main suit.
The court is set to rule on the new application in the property on the 14th of April 2024, even as several individuals claim to have legally bought plots on the disputed land and built houses.
And we are very optimistic. We have faith in the courts that orders will be given to stop any transaction, any activity that is taking place on the said parcel of land. I want to urge the residents of both Embakasi East and Kasarani constituencies not to transact anything. Do not send money to the Kirimas. Do not respond to these letters before the conclusion of this matter.
The High Court last year had ordered the residents to move out. Elsewhere, the Director of Public Prosecution has sought for time to establish the relationship between a city businessman Brian Birongo and a senior Brazilian embassy official Lydia Kimunto Magonga, who claims to have been defrauded 1.5 million shillings in a liquor business supply deal to the Department of Defense.
From these funds, I really cannot say where exactly they are because I was not expecting the extract this long.
Brian denied receiving the amount on diverse days on November 2022 in Westlands, Nairobi, under the guise of being in a position to start a business partnership with Lydia for distributing liquor at DOD. In Narok, 5 suspects were on Monday arraigned in connection to the murder of Lawrence Kamasiai. Appearing before Narok resident magistrate Phyllis Shinyanda, the 5, however, did not take plea pending results of a mental checkup.
A legal counsel will be appointed for each one of them, free of charge. Plea will be taken on the 14th of February 2024 before the Honorable Judge. In the meantime, they'll be in custody.
Meanwhile, 2 Asian businessmen have been charged for publishing false information touching on the head of Bohara community leader.
First accused person, or if he gets better in the interim, he can be availed at any day before then. But the pre-trial shall be on the 12th of February. Bond of 200,000 shillings, surety similar amount, or a cash bill of 100,000 shillings each, with 2 contact persons.
The 2 suspects are Junchawa and Surya, and after Afzal Abbas are said to have claimed on 24 January 2024 that the leader had stolen funds from the community.
Well, that report by Ruth Wamboy brings us to our first break here on Lunchtime News. Don't go too far, we still have more news coming up.
With the ball on the foot, very good in the air as well.
That's the replay of the point blank save. Just look at this. That is 5-star goalkeeping there.
Across Africa, a new era has begun, connecting us with one purpose: to create and share opportunities to grow. Across our continent, across the world, we are creating a better way to a better future. A Pan-African future. Together. EcoBank. A better way. A better Africa.
Are you a talented artist? Or are you passionate about a topic you want to discuss? But money can be very hard to find for an upcoming artist. Don't worry, Studio Mashinani has got your back. Sign up on ajira.co.ke to book a session with our music and video producers across the country. Work on your music, jingles, spoken words, and even podcasts to realize your dream. All for free. Studio Mashinani, Radani Talent.
Welcome back. Now this is Lunchtime News, and now we take a look at business news where consumer spending declined by 1.5% in the third quarter of 2023. The Consumer Spending Index by ICEA Lion Group shows that 38% of retail businesses experienced a decline in income in the third quarter 2023 compared to the third quarter 2022. On individual spending, trends indicated that 44% of consumers had a positive mindset regarding their spending, while 56% had a negative mindset regarding their spending trends.
Asset management, or ILAM, consumer index, which basically tracks consumer spending across the public, and the overall results are that it dropped by 1.5%, basically a reflection of a combination of higher prices in terms of various items, but it was also tempered by the fact that we saw with large businesses an increase in terms of spending, mainly because of the fact that they had offers that they were making and discounts that were offered to the wider public to enable them to purchase various goods from the various retail points. I think one of the other results that we've also seen is the fact that there is also a very low level of savings. And therefore it is upon us as players in the investment management industry to play our role in ensuring that we educate the public about the importance of investments through the kind of products that we offer and also the distribution channels that we provide to enable consumers and the wider public access investments.
Kenya has recorded one of the strongest GDP growth rates in Africa for quite a few years, and doing growth rates of between 4 and 5.5%. That's been, believe it or not, has been a very strong growth rate if you compare with other countries in Africa and indeed in the world. However, despite this strong headline GDP growth, there has been this equally strong perception that the headline GDP growth is not being felt on the ground.
And our students from Kenyatta University and Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology will make up BEAR's East Africa Local Youth Summit 2024 cohort. The event, which is locally organized, invited young agricultural leaders with a passion for sustainable agriculture for an opportunity to learn and collaborate with others on solutions to issues affecting food security.
So this summit, we collaborated with Kwaho, being our main implementing partner. As an NGO, they are very passionate about youth, about water, and we went ahead then to identify two very key institutions where we got the participants from. And this is Kenyatta University, as well as the Kenya National Farmers Federation, the Youth League of the KENAF, and we had about 100 participants for the pre-summit, started a conversation about agribusiness. We were trying to come up with an innovative idea on how we're going to bridge the gap between the practicing youth in agribusiness and also the gaps that they're facing.
The government is scouting for investors to exploit the coltan minerals, which has been discovered in Embu County. Mining Principal Secretary Elijah Mwangi has pledged to support potential investors acquire relevant documentation and any other help.
We have a lot of international investors who are willing to come and partner with our Kenyan businesses, especially in terms of exploration, in terms of mining, and even in terms of value addition. Because as a business community in Kenya, we want to be the country of choice, especially when it comes to value addition of minerals, because that is where the real economy is in terms of exploiting our minerals.
We are looking forward as counties to be part of this process. We are happy with the transparency that is now developing within the mining sector, especially in the areas of identification of would-be investors, discovery, and the fact that the national government is now willing to give county governments the necessary support in terms of resources.
well, we are there to support you, because for you to be granted mineral rights, the requirement is that you must get consent from the county government, and we are working to ensure that we support any investor who wants to invest in ensuring that the process of acquiring the consent is expedited.
In other news, small medium enterprises should leverage data and automation to drive efficiency and power their growth. Kenya Association of Manufacturers Head of Business Development Joyce Njogu says SMEs are in urgent need of product management and diversification and training on costing, pricing and processes.
Data is key to unlocking insights, staying ahead of emerging trends to gain a competitive advantage in the current volatile and dynamic global business landscape. Small and medium enterprises are being encouraged to automate and incorporate data-centric expertise for sustainable growth.
Data should be able to be analyzed and guide you on where your market is, what consumers are consuming, their preferences, including regulations or market requirements, so that you can be able to innovate in a way that suits the market needs. So without data, we've seen that a lot of businesses are grappling in the dark, and you could shut down overnight.
The Kenya Association of Manufacturers has launched a business growth program in partnership with Unilever Limited that will train 40 SMEs on various aspects.
One of the challenges, of course, was strategy, understanding the environment, the growth of their sectors. That was very common across all SMEs. And at the time, we were helping them come up with business plans so that they could access finance. We discovered also their product development strategies were weak. They were not very clear also in their manufacturing processes and how they were innovating. The use of technologies also was a big challenge. A lot of them were really not automated, and that was affecting their productivity.
We are looking at SMEs that are basically not like starting off from scratch. So about 3 years in business, that is considered at least a good stage as an SME.
The program, which will run for 7 months, will promote sourcing of raw materials locally and financing solutions.
For SMEs that show potential to grow, they are willing to learn and expand. And that is what is.
They want SMEs to embrace new technologies to scale their business and effectively compete with larger companies. Wambiru Mujenga for Lunchtime News.
And now we'd like to welcome you to our interactive session right here on Business News, where we are joined by Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentist Council CEO Dr. David Kariuki for a discussion on Kenya as a medical tourism destination. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, thank you.
All right, to kick us off, you just released a report. Perhaps kindly provide a brief overview of the recent report released by KMPDC that revolves around Kenya's potential to become a potential medical tourism hub.
Well, thank you very much. I think as a beginning, we would want to tell Kenyans what Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Council is all about. It is the agency of government as a semi-autonomous agency in the Ministry of Health that deals with the regulation of the practice of medicine and dentistry in the country. This means that we do regulate and put the norms and standards for those who want to practice medicine in the country. We also are involved in regulation of hospitals, that is anyone who would want to provide health services in the country. Currently we have over 14,000 registered facilities in the country and over 15,000 registered doctors and dentists. But you find that despite this, sometimes we may not have all the equipment, all the facilities that we may need in the country, and a few Kenyans have opted to go and have their treatment undertaken outside of our borders. So the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Council is usually involved in approving treatment outside of our borders, and especially for those who will require financial support by the National Health Insurance Fund, which has been in existence, but as you are aware, now it is transitioning to what is going to be called a Social Health Authority. When we look at the trends in the last 1-2 years, those who have gone through the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Council approval were about 569 Kenyans to destinations across the world, mostly in Asia, a few in Africa, and some in Europe. In Asia, most went to India.
All right, then. So what does Kenya need to effectively what does it need to do to effectively compete with other medical tourism destinations such as India, the UK, Singapore, among others?
Thank you. Just as a background again, those who went out mostly went to India. And the reasons they gave were that their perception of that it could be more affordable in terms of cost, that it could be cheaper. They also feel that the facilities there are more advanced than what we have here. And sometimes just want to get that second opinion on what their ailment could be and whether the treatment they had been advised while back home is still what would be required for them to undertake. Looking again at the kind of illnesses that take people out there, we did notice that most went out for heart surgeries. Others went for treatment for cancers, various cancers, like the blood cancer called leukemia. Others went for liver transplants because of liver cancer and such other treatments. And a few went just for a second opinion. So for us to be able to stem this tide of patients or clients having to go and seek treatment out of our borders, we then need to invest more, especially in the management of the more complex diseases that have been making our people go, and also look at the issue around affordability. And when you look at these things, we as KMPDC, as part of government support towards ensuring that services are getting closer to Kenyans and to our people within our borders, and even open up to people from outside our country, we, in terms of increasing the number of specialists, we now have the kind of capacity in terms of human resource that can be able to undertake those surgeries. Very many heart surgeries are now occurring within our country across various tertiary hospitals, both government and non-government, to mention hospitals like the Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital, the Kenyatta National Hospital, the Moi Referral Hospital as government hospitals, and then we also have private hospitals that are of the level 6 that can undertake that, maybe Aga Khan, Nairobi, Karen, and such. So therefore, meaning that we have started increasing our capacity in terms of human resources. We are also increasing capacity of the hospitals by them investing more in necessary equipment. I'm sure that all Kenyans have seen of late, like what has been installed in at the Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital, what was called the CyberKnife, which is an advanced treatment for cancer. They also have introduced other imaging modalities that make us be more precise in terms of the diagnosis of the ailment. And just to take you back, for those that had gone out of the country, at least 20 of them had gone out for CyberKnife treatment, meaning that now that our country has installed this equipment, we will now no longer require those people who had gone out for that to be able to go. I think another investment that is being undertaken as a reform in the health sector, as you're already aware, is that recently His Excellency the President signed into law what is called the Social Health Act. One of the key things around the Social Health Act is to ensure that affordability will now be one of the key issues that will be covered through health insurance that will be available to all wananchi, irrespective of their ability to pay. So these are steps that are being taken by our country to ensure that services have gotten closer to the people. One of these investments also is ensuring that now we will have more people coming into our country because of the investments that we shall have done and are doing in terms of our specialized human resource, specialized medical equipment. For example, the Moi Teaching Referral has done or treated over 250 patients from across Eastern Central Africa. There are many other numbers that are there across our tertiary hospitals.
Very well. You
Yes.
mentioned the private sector. So in this case, what do you think the role will be of private sector, or which role will they play in advancing medical tourism? And could you elaborate on specific contributions expected from the private sector?
Thank you. The private sector plays a key role in overall service delivery for healthcare. One, in its ability to partner with the government to ensure that services are available in the country for where the government may not have fully invested in a certain expertise or speciality in terms of equipment or facility, let's say, operating facilities, medical equipment, like machines to make diagnosis, to diagnose in the laboratories, in the radiology departments. The private sector can be able to invest in that, and public partnership collaborations can also help. As a recent example, you have seen how what was called the medical leasing equipment program did to ensure that services across the country were becoming available. For example, before that program started, kidney dialysis was not available across the country. It was only available in about 2 hospitals. But today we are talking about 50 hospitals that are able to provide that. That is part of private sector involvement in service delivery. And then there is the individual private sector, investment by building hospitals, building, diagnostic and radiology facilities across the country. Training, because some of them also offer training, and they offer training for specialized cadre of staff like specialized nurses, specialized doctors. And in this way, they get to increase the capacity of the country to absorb numbers of patients from outside the country that will be able to improve our economy.
Well, thank you so much. I'm told we've run out of time. We should invite you back to continue this discussion.
Yeah.
Would like to thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. Well, that was Dr. David Kariuki, who is the CEO of KMPDC. Now, we shall be moving on to other news, where hosts Ivory Coast eliminated reigning champions Senegal in a 5-4 penalty shootout to book their place in the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations quarterfinals following a 1-1 draw after extra time. Now, Cape Verde defeated Mauritania 1-0 to book a place in the quarters for the second time. Tonight, Mali will face Burkina Faso at 8 p.m. while Morocco play South Africa at 11 p.m. and both matches will be televised on KBC Channel 1.
Perhaps they should have. Stadium! The Ivorian lead. And into the net it goes. And then as well, Mauritania, who is going to come from the compactness.
The high ball from Logan Costa. Oh, that's so good! It's a giveaway! The goalkeeper's brought down! It's going to be a penalty! Mendes! Ryan Mendes! Has scored for the voracious Blue Sharks! The goal!
The Kenya Women's Under-17 national team, Junior Starlets, is in residential training in preparation for the upcoming two-legged second-round FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup qualifier against DR Congo. All players have reported to camp ahead of the qualifier. Head coach Mildred Cheche has expressed confidence in her team ahead of the World Cup qualifiers.
Starlets have previously been active in different tournaments like Talanta Hela and Chapadimba, which gives the team a boost during the preparations. The team is gearing up for the first leg away match against Democratic Republic of Congo, scheduled for this Sunday in Kinshasa. They are scheduled to travel to Kinshasa this Thursday, with a return leg match set to be played in Nairobi on the 11th of next month.
Ukipewa chance tumia, because timu tunaenda kucheza nayo si rahisi sana, na tunataka tuhakikishia kwamba venye tumefunzwa na makoches wetu hapa hivi hatuendi kuangusha.
They are talented na wametuletea their best. Most of them wamekuwa kwa competition, school games, Talanta Hela, also Chapadimba, so most of them wamekuwa active. So wamekuja wakiwa ready, most of them, so we're just polishing a few areas.
The aggregate winner of the two-leg tie will proceed to the third round. The provisional squad of 30 players has fetched girls from different teams across schools in Kenya. Nora Mwangi for Lunchtime News.
Well, that brings us to the end of our bulletin this afternoon. Thank you so much for choosing Lunchtime News. For more news, check out our website at kbc.co.ke. My name is Jackie Wambiru. Our sign language interpreter is Susan Thuku. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon.